Mic's working. Is it working? Okay, awesome. Welcome to Known Day 2. It's so great to see you all here, and a special welcome to those of you joining us on the live stream.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. Great to see you again if you were here yesterday. I'm one of your hosts for tonight.
And Jonathan, what do you study and what college do you go to?
I study history at Magdalen College, ancient and modern history actually, and I'm in my second year. Grace, what do you study?
I study law sometimes, and I'm at Exeter College.
Yeah, we've got a great lineup tonight. Once again, we're going to be hearing from Jonty, and we're also going to be having a chat with Isaac.
Exciting. Ooh. So maybe you came with a friend, maybe you heard something about free G&D's ice cream, maybe the talk title sparked your interest, but whatever it is, you're definitely in for a treat. So, yeah, I'm going to miss out my terrible joke. I had a terrible joke. Maybe I should just do it. Okay. It's not just Known Day 2 today. It's also another special day. Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you.
No, I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah, okay. After that, that's all from me. So I'm going to welcome up Isaac to have a chat with Jonathan.
Come on up, Isaac. Once again, I need to remind you, please to keep your masks on, and at the end, the stewards will direct you out, so stay seated until they've come to you. Isaac.
Hello.
How are we doing, my guy? Do you want to give us your Oxford stats quickly?
Hi, I'm Isaac. I do PPE. I'm a finalist. I go to Jesus College.
There's quite a few Jesus College fans in the audience, it seems. You brought the entourage.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, got some support stuff. Yeah.
Very good stuff, good stuff. I'll bring the Magdalen lads down tomorrow, get it a bit rowdy. Yesterday we had Monty on, and he was talking about his 8-hour drive from Wales. Combination of bank holiday and no foreign travel meant he was stuck in traffic for 8 hours. If you were stuck in traffic for 8 hours, what would you listen to?
Good question. I think probably a bit of Stone Roses. A little bit of Stone Roses. They're quite an old band, like definitely 80s. So.
Is that your time?
Yeah, I don't know. Something like that.
Any games you would play?
Well, it depends who was driving. If I was driving, I probably would be playing.
Very safe.
But like,
Good stuff.
yeah, Uno maybe. I don't know.
Uno?
Yeah. Well, not if I was driving.
That's an awfully strange car game. But fair enough. We were also talking about how you're a Southampton fan.
Yeah, indeed.
John T, our speaker, is also a Southampton fan. So happy about the season?
Not really.
It's been a tough life.
It's been a pretty tough life. Yeah. Hopes for next year will be all right.
Good stuff, good stuff. Let's not alienate the non-football fans out there.
Yeah.
Tell us about your life at the moment. What have you been up to recently, apart from your degree?
Yeah, good question. I've mainly just been doing my degree, so that's basically it. But yeah, was at home for quite a long time. Spent quite a long time with family over COVID. That was nice. Starting to do job applications, stuff like that. So kind of normal uni life at the moment.
Job applications.
I know, scary stuff, isn't it?
You mean there's a world outside of
Uni, yeah.
terrifying. Tell us about your childhood then. Where did you grow up? What was it like?
Yeah, so I moved around quite a lot as a child. So I spent most of my childhood in Leicester and then in Cambridge. My dad was a pastor, so I was from a Christian family, Christian background. Spent most of my life in church and having Christians all around me, so I was very used to that as a child. Yeah.
So you came from a Christian family. Would you say that you were a Christian growing up then?
Yeah, so I think like growing up, I would have definitely called myself a Christian, and I had an awful lot of, like theological knowledge. I knew a lot about the Bible. I was the kid at like Sunday school who like knew all the answers and stuff like that. But at the same time, I found Christianity, I think as I got older, I found it more challenging. And I think, so I would have called myself a Christian, and I definitely had, it wasn't I didn't take it seriously or anything like that. I probably did take it quite seriously. But as I got older, I found increasingly I was moving away from that.
Why do you think that was? Why was Christianity a difficult thing?
Yeah, so I think as I grew up, I think, I was a teenage guy, and I think there was lots of fun things in the world, and I wanted to enjoy myself and have fun. But at the same time, it wasn't really necessarily like a rebellion against Christianity or turning away from Christianity. It was more of a, like, oh man, Christianity, I have to be like a good person, I have to, do all this stuff, and I want to do this stuff, but that doesn't seem to work together. So it felt quite contradictory. I was trying to be this good Christian boy, but then at the same time, I also wanted to have fun. It was just very, exhausting and quite tiring. And I was like, you know what, this is too much effort. I can't really do this. It's just too hard. So I carried around a lot of burden. I think, it felt like all the time I had to live up to these expectations that of God, and I had this image of God as being this person I need to work really hard for. If I ever messed up, I need to be really, really sorry and earn my forgiveness and stuff. It was just really hard, and eventually I was just like, quit this is rubbish, it's really hard work, and I can't do this anymore. So decided to throw in the towel, basically. And it wasn't that I didn't think Christianity wasn't true, it wasn't that I rejected it academically or intellectually. It was more I was just like, this is too difficult. So it was definitely an emotional decision to give up as a Christian.
And where did that lead you?
So that left me, basically, I hadn't really told my parents or family about it, but I was basically, I'd do some religious-y stuff, I would go to church, I'd go to youth groups, stuff like that, but I really wasn't living as a Christian at all. And then when I went to uni, I think that was my moment where I was like, this is where the dividing line, this is where my life really starts, really. I can get rid of all that Christian stuff, all that, old religious tradition, all that effort, all that hard work. I can kind of reject that, and I can just go and enjoy myself, really. And also, I can start thinking about what life is about, like what is important, and I can start just having a bit more independence. And in fact, ironically enough, as I started to think about life, and I was like, well, I'm not a Christian. I'm definitely not a Christian. Never going back to that. Sorry, it's just so funny. Like, if you'd spoken to me 2 years ago and you told me I was doing the Known talk, I'd have literally just laughed so much. Anyway, I was just like, well, what should I believe? So I started thinking about being like a good person, being a good friend. I did loads of volunteering. I did loads of homeless work and stuff like that. I was really thinking, I'll be a good person, good moral, liberal, ethical bloke. But at the same time, there was a bit of tension, because at the same time I was thinking about Christianity, and I was like, I didn't think it was true, and I didn't like it. But at the same time, I was like, this might be true. This could be true. And I wanted to be kind of internally consistent. I wanted to, if it was true, I wanted to believe it, because I wanted to be, it was sort of selfish on my account. I wanted to believe it because I wanted to believe truth. I didn't want to believe it so I wanted to kind of consider myself to be a true intellectual person who believed what was right. And also, I was like, I cared a lot about being a good friend, like a good, really looking after my mates and stuff. I still think that's a good thing to do, obviously. But I was like, well, if Christianity is true, that really matters. I should probably tell them. So I think that encouraged me as I was going through uni to go, oh, maybe I should think about this, even if it was just to think about it so I can show it's not true. And then if I show it's not true, then I can completely get rid of it and stop believing it. Yeah.
That internal contradiction almost.
Yeah.
Could you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so I think it was the sense of there were certain things. I found Christianity in lots of ways convincing. I found the truth of Christianity quite persuasive. No one could prove to me that it was true, but no one could disprove it to me either. And I had this sense which I'd quite like to have shaken off, to be honest, because I'd rather it wasn't there, but a sense of, if this is true, it really matters, so I should really think about it. And as much as I'd like to just forget about it, I was like, well, I need to care about what's true. That really matters. And I think that really mattered to me as a person. As I was saying, I think that was probably quite an egotistical thing. I think the reason I wanted it to matter was because I was deep down, quite arrogant and quite self-righteous, and I wanted to be this perfectly, the truth believer, truth seeker, good person. But I still think I had a little worm in my brain, basically, kind of going, you can't just ignore this for the sake of ignoring it. You can't throw it away if this is true. So I think that didn't lead me to become a Christian, but it led me to take it more seriously. It led me to think about it on its own terms, I think. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that your father's a pastor.
Yes.
And he came from a Christian background.
Yeah.
Did you speak to them at all about this?
Yeah, so I think as I went to uni, I started talking to my parents more about it, kind of going, I don't really believe this, or wouldn't really call myself a Christian, or I have these questions and doubts and stuff. I wasn't, to start off with, when I was a teenager, I didn't really speak to them about it because it's a bit scary, and I just rather wouldn't talk to them about it, and it was much easier to kind of just, ignore it. I think as part of growing up, I think I started to realise me telling them, I think, was actually quite a helpful thing because it let me kind of distance myself from it. So then when I did start thinking about Christianity again, I was thinking about it much more on my own terms. I was thinking about it not because my parents said I should be a Christian, so I should be a Christian, but because I was trying to take it seriously myself. So I started going to the church. I didn't I was doing it more out of a sense of duty, but I kind of felt like I should, because I wanted to be this kind of internally consistent person. So I didn't really want to become a Christian, but I started going to church because I was like, well, if this is true, I should check it out as much as I'd rather not. I really enjoyed that. I started meeting up with a pastor, and I enjoyed that. I started praying occasionally, so I'd pray to God and kind of go, God, if you're there, show yourself. I don't really want you to be there. I hope you're not, but if you're there, reveal yourself. And I kind of thought, well, I can do that for a few years and nothing will happen.
Were you hoping that you got an answer to those questions?
Kind of, but not really. I think I was like, if God's there, I'd quite like him. I was like, if God's there, it would be good if he showed himself, but I really hope he doesn't answer those questions because I hope he's not there. But strangely enough, he did answer those questions, which I was surprised, very, very surprised by. So completely out of the blue, really. I think most people who knew me would be very surprised when I became a Christian. But one night, I was just praying, and as I sometimes did, kind of praying the normal stuff, going, God, I know if you're there, show yourself, reveal yourself. And suddenly I'm not a very experiential, super feely guy. So this took me very much by surprise, but suddenly the flick of a switch was I suddenly just felt this amazing sense of peace and happiness, and I felt God's presence, and I was like, yeah, I need to become a Christian. I was like, whoa, this is really strange. In fact, I was actually kind of annoyed because I always wanted to tell my friends, oh yeah, I became a Christian because I finally decided it was true. I got to the bottom of it and I decided, yes, there's enough evidence for or against it. But it really wasn't. I didn't really have that much choice in the matter. I think this God kind of came in and saved me, which is kind of, pretty crazy.
When did that happen? So
that happened beginning of second year. So a year and a half ago. Yeah. So pretty recently. Yeah.
Very nice. And how would you say that's affected your life since? Have you finally solved life in Christianity?
No, I have not solved life. I think it can be quite easy. If you're not a Christian here, don't think all your problems will go away if you become a Christian, because they won't. So that's a false promise. If anyone's telling you that, that's not true. Life continues to be hard and difficult in lots of different ways. I'd also say, if you're a Christian here, don't think if you're a Christian you're finding life hard. You're the only Christian who's finding life hard, because you're definitely not. I think it's quite easy. I think as Christians, we have great community and we have CU, and that's great. I think we can often get the impression that all other Christians are doing amazingly well and we're not, and that's not true. Just get to know people and you really find out that's really not true. But I think since I've become a Christian, as much as there's so many great things about it, life has been difficult in lots of different ways. Life is really hard sometimes. And also that, you don't become a perfect person after you become a Christian either. You still have, in some senses, I feel very strange coming up here giving an interview, because I feel like the people giving interviews should be these perfect Christians who have it all sorted out. And I'm really not that. I fail in all sorts of ways. I make loads of mistakes. I'm very far from a perfect person. I think I'm much more aware of my failures now than before I was a Christian. But at the same time, I think that's also why Christianity is so amazing at the same time, because I think that's what God, if life was easy, God would be a little bit pointless. God works so, you realize the importance of God so much more in the suffering and in the difficulty that, Jesus has compassion on people who are sinners and people who are broken, not people who have their life all together. In lots of ways, I'm a bit of a loser, but that's fine with Jesus. That's cool with him. He's very happy to save people and look after people and come in those difficult situations. And it's not like, I feel rubbish and I pray one day, oh God, please help me, and suddenly I'm over the moon. But I know that even though I often sin, even though I often make mistakes, even though I often fail, God is still for me in that. I think when I was thinking of Christianity, I had this incredible weight, all this difficulty. It was so hard, I couldn't live up to these expectations. In some ways, I still feel that. I feel like I can't live up to these expectations of what a Christian should be, but that's okay, because Jesus still loves me, and, God is still for me, and Jesus still died for me, and he forgives me, and it is hard, but he's for me even when it is hard. So that's, I don't want to kind of go, that's okay, and it's all easy, because it's not, but God is with us in that difficulty, So it's quite a long-winded answer, but...
No, that was great. Maybe just touching upon that, the image of God.
Yeah.
How has your image of God changed now compared to where you were as a 14, 15-year-old who thought, actually, this Christian stuff it's a bit much?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I would have seen God earlier as very much like the judge you perform to, like the teacher, the boss, the angry parent, someone who probably has your best interests at heart, but is a real pain in the arse, to someone really just is just constantly very overbearing and, a bit totalitarian. And sometimes God can still feel like that. That doesn't go away sometimes, but I know he's not like that, which is really reassuring, because I know ultimately that God is my Father and he loves me, and I do make mistakes and I mess up, but he still cares for me. He knows everything about me and he still loves me. I feel like Naomi have said that a lot. God knows everything about me and he still loves me. That is so huge. That is just amazing. And I think it's so liberating that I don't have to put on a front to God, or I don't have to pretend to be someone I'm not. I can be honest with him. And he's like, yeah, cool, I love you, Isaac. I was willing to send my son to die for you. That's an objective fact. He knows all the messy stuff in my life, and he still wants me to be his child. It's pretty cool. So.
You talked about how life hasn't necessarily been easy since you've been a Christian. In many ways, it's been harder.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
I think one thing is kind of knowing that God is good, and God is good, and life is hard, and those things aren't mutually contradictory. And I think, when I read the Bible and I look at the Bible, I think I see a lot of God. Being a Christian isn't just being super happy all the time. You read the Bible and people had rough lives. People had a hard time. It's not like the Bible is this fairy story of, they lived happily ever after, because they really didn't. But I think you also see it talks in the Bible a lot about God's steadfast love or God's unfailing love. And I think you really see that in the Christian life, that as we struggle and as we find difficult, God is there for the long haul. God isn't just some flash in the pan thing. He's really there, and he really, has our back, really. And that doesn't, again, as I said, it doesn't stop difficult things being difficult. But knowing that someone cares for you in the difficulty, knowing that someone is for you, knowing that in the difficulty, God is using the difficulty for your benefit, as much as you have no idea how that's happening, and you'd much rather he didn't, that really still does mean an awful lot, yeah.
Isaac, thank you so much.
That's all right.
Can you give him a round of applause? I'm going to go back and sit down. John Tingray is going to come up now.
Thanks so much, Isaac. That was incredible. Thanks so much, Jonty. So, Jonty, you're our speaker this evening, and let's just get to know you a little bit. So, first question, could you tell us an embarrassing moment from any point in your life?
An embarrassment. So the problem with embarrassing moments, right, is that they are embarrassing. Which means that when you think about telling an embarrassing moment, you immediately think, I can't say that, I can't say that, and I can't say that. Okay, here's one. This is properly embarrassing, and it comes with a warning. It will make you cringe. How bad this is. I have 3 sons who are a delight. most of the time. When they were much younger, we went to a place where there was a sea lion show. That was exciting. And there was big queues, and so we had to queue for a long time to get into the sea lion show. And we just sat down, and we were waiting for the show to start. And one of my sons, who should remain nameless, said, Dad, I need the loo. I was like, but we just queued all this time, and if we go, we'll lose the seats. But it's okay, because we have a plan for such a time as this. We carry a bottle in the bag. So that was okay. So it's like, okay, fine. We'll just get the bottle. And so that was going along fine, and until I don't know what happened. To this day, I don't know what happened, but we lost control. Somewhere along the lines, we lost control. And we just started spraying everywhere, like all over the back of the girl sitting in front of us. At which point, because it was quite a hot day, at which point she's like, huh. And she turned round to see me holding a bottle. It was horrendous. And we had to sit and watch the rest of the show, watching this wee drying on the back of her. It was awful. I don't even know what happened in the scene. There you go.
I'm not sure who I feel more sorry for, you or the girl. That's just embarrassing for both
It does
of
make me
you.
laugh. There's probably a girl going around America. It was in America, going, this kid once... And she's probably not telling that story. It's not a great story, is it?
Awesome. So, John T., I've heard you were also a student here at Oxford. So would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was a student here, studied chemistry at Lincoln College from 95 to 99, and then left.
Awesome.
It was cool. I always felt like I might be doing the wrong subject. I don't know if any of you have had this feeling. I was doing chemistry, and I felt partway through that I probably should be doing English, because I hung around with English students all the time, and I used to love doing plays with English students, and I was kind of like, it was a bit weird. Anyway.
English students seem to have more fun, so I wish I did English sometimes.
Chemistry was not fun. I mean, great and all that. Love that.
So you're back in Oxford this week, doing talks with us, which is so lovely. What are you looking forward to about being back in Oxford? And yeah.
That's just so weird, isn't it? It's so weird going back somewhere and kind of going, oh, this is where that happened, and this is where we did this. And I went for a long walk today and just saw a load of places like, oh, this is like memories. And but Oxford's so full of history, not just my history, but like proper history. And it's true about Christians, actually, as well. There's a lot of Christian history in Oxford. And so in the middle of Broad Street, there's a little cross in the middle of the street where two men were burned at the stake because of what they believed. And I walked past that today and was just thinking, these guys, for them it was a matter of like, we sit here and we listen to a talk and then we have G&D's ice cream and we think about it. For those two guys, it was a matter of life and death. They died because they believed this stuff. And that, I find that quite moving, really, in Oxford.
Yeah, it's big stuff. Thanks, John T. So John T's going to be speaking to us tonight from the title, Loved, Imagine a World Where No One Was Excluded. So, yeah, thanks, John T. Over to you.
Fab. Hey, thanks for coming, and thanks for having me. It's really fun to be able to do this stuff. And what I want to do tonight is I want to tie together three images, three words, which at first sight sound very random, but I want to try and tie them together in a way that will help us to understand an encounter that Jesus had with a woman. And the three images, we're going to start with walls, okay? We're going to start by talking about walls. We're then going to move from walls to talk about water. And once we talk about water, it will then lead us to end up talking about worship. Okay, so those three words, I'm going to try and tie together and show you what they teach us about Jesus. And all of it is going to show us what it means to be loved. What it means to be loved. See, I think most of us would agree that we want to be loved, right? And I don't just mean in a soppy romantic way, I mean deeply loved. But part of the problem I think that we have is that our definition of love can sometimes get a bit warped. You see, I use love in different ways, right? So love my wife, I love my job, I love ice cream. I love all three of those things. But our love tends to operate that we are drawn to what is lovely. I love my wife because she's lovely. I love ice cream because it's lovely in a different way. But I want to push us tonight to see that there is a deeper understanding of love than that, a better understanding. An understanding of love that will set you free from the need to prove yourself. Isaac spoke really helpfully about that need to prove yourself. And we get that a lot in our world. And we have these mixed messages that come. Okay, look, come on, work with me for a second, right? I'm a dad, I've got 3 kids. When they were little, should I tell them that they're special? Do you think I should tell them they're special? Yes. Most people nodding, some people shaking their heads. I think it's fairly standard practice that it's a good thing to tell your kids they're special. Okay, on what basis are they special? What do I say when they say to me, Dad, that's lovely, Dad. It really moves me that you say I'm special. What makes me special? What do I say next? Because I better have a reason, because if I just go, well, I don't know. That's going to completely undermine the whole special thing. You see, most people go for, well, you're special because you're unique. And they go, oh, that's great. I'm unique. Just like everyone else. At which point you go, hang on a second. Is that really what makes you special? And the message that is often being taught to our kids is, no, you're special, you're absolutely special, you're valuable. And yet at the same time, they're being told, you need to achieve, you need to be a success, you need to make the most of your life. And we couch it in lovely terms, but actually the message, look within, believe in yourself. So another time with my kids, I went to a school assembly. And if you ever have kids, that's something you've got to look forward to. You sit and you watch these kids, they practice their songs, and one of the songs they sang, it was the big climax of the concert, they all stood there, they sang with their angelic little faces, kind of 6, 7-year-olds, and they stand there singing, and this is what, I'll try and recreate it for you, so you can enter into the moment, okay? I warn you, I don't know if there's any way of putting reverb, it might help the voice. I'm joking. This is what they sang. I'll be a little 6-year-old. When I look up to the stars, I can sense a deep burning within me. And there's something that moves within my soul. And it goes on like this. And then it gets to the chorus, because I can't quite remember the words of the verse. It gets to the chorus and goes, I can be anything I want. I can climb the highest mountain. I can hear the ocean calling. I'm getting quite into it now. Calling vast and free. I can go anywhere I choose with this dream inside to guide me. If I can't just believe in me. And you've got all these little kids, they're all singing this song, they're loving it. And the parents, what are all the parents doing? The parents are all crying, right? All of them are crying, the head teacher's crying, the teachers are crying, everyone's crying, the kids are looking, why are you all crying? What's going on? And they're singing this song, they're belting it out. And do you know what I felt when I listened to that song? I was really angry. I was angry because that song is not true. It's not true. And that message that we're telling you, you can do anything, you can be anything, you can climb the highest mountain. Because on the day when they fail, whose fault is it? Well, you didn't believe. All you had to do was believe enough, but you just didn't believe. And you're setting up these kids who have these beaming smiles, and you've got this kid who's saying, oh, I'm going to be a Premier League footballer. You're like, well, you're not. You're clearly, I can see you're not. And we're not helping our kids, and our culture is constantly saying to us that our value and our worth comes from our achievement and the mountains that we climb and how much we believe in ourselves, and then we get to the Olympics, and Someone's just won a gold medal and they always say the same thing when they're interviewed, right? It's so annoying. They always say, well, this just goes to show if you believe, you can achieve anything. I'm like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't show that. There are 7 people behind you on the track who prove your point is not true. They're crying because they lost. You see, what I want my kids to know is not that they can achieve anything and climb the highest mountain. I want them to know that when they get halfway up the mountain and they fall over and they scrape their knee and they fail, I still love them. I want to prepare my kids to be average. Because statistically speaking, that is what they're going to be. That's how most people are going to be average. That's just the way it works. And yet if my kids go into school and say to their teacher, oh, Daddy says I should aim at being average. The teacher says, no, don't do that. But the problem is we are putting such pressure on ourselves to achieve, and we have such massive goals and ambitions, and we've been told we can do anything and be anything, that we find it very hard when we fail to believe that we could ever truly be loved. But when you look into the Bible, I think you see something different. I think you see a version of love that is not about how high you climb. It's not about how much you achieve. It's not about how much you follow your dreams. It's not about looking within. It's not about believing in yourself. It's actually oriented somewhere else. So let's get into this story. So that was a long introduction, but we're getting to it. If you've got John's Gospel, there's a pile of them around nearby. Grab one of those. So I haven't got one in front of me, but you'll be able to find it. It's John chapter 4. It's on a page. In fact, while you find it, I'll grab one of these. I can actually tell you. It'll be far more useful to you. So we're on page 18. Page 18. And we're going to drop in on a conversation between Jesus and a woman. And we're told I'm going to go from verse 4, okay? So look at where that comes on page 18. It says, now he, that's Jesus, had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans. Okay, let's leave it there for a second. Here is this encounter that happens. And I want to talk to you first about walls, okay? You see, human beings tend to build walls. We like building walls. We build quite big walls. There's quite famous walls, you know, the Berlin Wall, Great Wall of China, Hadrian's Wall, that sort of stuff. And walls are about excluding people, keeping people out. And as we read this account, the first thing I want you to see is that this woman that Jesus meets is someone who is excluded, someone who is shut out. Now you may say, hang on, that doesn't say that. Well, let me just fill in a bit of detail. The first thing we're told about, we're not told her name, the first thing we're told is that she is a Samaritan woman. And we all go, oh, Samaritans, nice. We like Samaritans, they're nice people. No. They are today, good Samaritans. But back in Jesus' day, to be a Samaritan was to be someone who was shut out. You weren't a true Jew. You weren't a true member of God's people. The Jews, in fact, it even says it, in case you weren't aware of it. It says it at the end of verse 9 there, Jews do not associate with Samaritans. There's a wall between them. And so it's a very awkward moment when Jesus is sitting at this well and a Samaritan woman comes to the well. It's an awkward social moment. Awkward. But Jesus doesn't seem to be awkward about it at all. He doesn't do the London thing on the tube of averting his eyes and ignoring any eye contact. Instead, he speaks to her and says, "Will you give me a drink?" And she's completely blown away by this, because Jesus seems to be crossing a wall. He's going to someone who he shouldn't be speaking to, and she knows that he shouldn't be speaking to her. Why are you talking to me? And so here is this woman who is excluded as a Samaritan, but there's another clue: she's excluded in another way as well. Did you notice what time it was when she came to the well? It was noon. We go, noon? Sounds like a perfectly acceptable time to go to the well. Yeah, but that's because we don't live in Israel, right? We don't live at this time. We don't live in the Middle East. It was a stupid time to go to a well, because it's the hottest part of the day. It's baking hot. You go to the well early in the morning or in the evening. That's when you go. That's when all the people from the town would go to the well, a big social occasion. They'd help each other carry the water. They'd talk to each other. But she comes at noon when no one else is there. Why? Well, because not only is she a Samaritan, she's also excluded from her Samaritan people. She's a woman who's notorious. We'll find out later she's a woman who has a very dodgy history. And so here is a woman who is excluded. She's a Samaritan, and she's even excluded from them. So she's doubly walled out. She is not one of life's winners. She is, as Isaac would say, a loser. She's someone who has not achieved her dream. She's someone who's fallen. But now look what Jesus says. Okay, so we've seen the walls. Let's now move, okay? Here she is in this state of brokenness and exclusion. Have a look now at verse 10. I'm going to read the next little bit, okay? Try and stick with this. This is a little bit complicated, but stick with it. So Jesus said, "Can you give me a drink?" She said, "Why are you talking to me?" Jesus says to her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." What is Jesus talking about? He suddenly starts talking about water and living water. And he says to her, "There is a gift I have for you." Now remember, come on, you've got to remember, here is this woman who is excluded. She's someone who is outside. And Jesus says, "I have a gift for you." And in that little word gift, this gift of water, we'll think what that is in a second, but in that little word gift, there's the clue that Jesus is not talking about something she has to earn, not something she has to impress, not something she has to buy or to perform for, but something that she's given. A gift. Because when we talk about the way that God loves us, he loves us in a way that is a gift, not a reward. He loves us not because we are lovely, not because we've done so many lovely things. He loves us because he chooses to give us a gift. You know, so when One Direction sang, "That's what makes you beautiful," I've got to stop singing. "That's what makes you beautiful." You know, the way you flip your hair, the way you know, all that stuff, that's what makes you beautiful. I love you because you're beautiful. You know, when God says, he looks at us, he doesn't say, I love you because you're beautiful. He says, I love you because I choose to love you and to give you a gift. So Jesus offers her, this excluded woman, he offers her a gift. And do you see what the gift is? The gift is living water. At which point the woman, with, justification says, Sir, you have nothing to draw with and the well is deep. She's like, you haven't got a bucket. I've come prepared with my bucket. Jesus, you do not appear to have a bucket. Where are you going to get this water from? Are you greater than our father Jacob? And Jesus essentially says, yes. Yes, I am. Because I'm talking about a sort of water that is not the sort of water you need a bucket and a well for. He says, I'm talking about a sort of water that you need a spring, a living spring, an overflowing fountain to receive. And we say again, what is he talking? John, I'm so late, I'm tired. What is he talking about? Okay, this is what he's saying. I'm going to read you one verse from many, many years before, and you'll see the massive thing that Jesus is claiming. Back in a book called Jeremiah, God says to his people this, My people have committed 2 sins. They've forsaken me, the spring of living water, and have dug their own cisterns, broken cisterns that cannot hold water. God says, I am the spring of living water, but my people have rejected me. They've forsaken me, the spring of living water, and instead they've dug their own. They've tried to achieve their own things. I can do anything at all. I can dig the deepest cistern. I can feel the water calling. I can make it on my own. I can do it. And they've dug their own wells to try and get water for themselves, to try and get something that will satisfy them in life. But God says, I'm the spring of living water. That's what he said back in the Old Testament. Okay, then Jesus rocks up, and Jesus says, I can give you living water. Right, come on, what's Jesus claiming? He's claiming to be God. God is the spring of living water. Jesus says, I can give you living water. And Jesus says the trouble with this water, the water that you dig for yourself, the trouble with the meaning that you try and find for yourself, the trouble with this relentless attempt to find something that will satisfy you is that it will never satisfy you because you will become thirsty again. Jesus says it's like a muddy puddle. And we got this little bit of water and we stick our faces in it and we sort of go, oh, but it's filthy and it stinks, and yet it's all we've got. And then Jesus says, no, I can give you a satisfaction that's way better than that. You see, water and life go together. Okay, you need water to live. When you're thirsty, when you're thirsty, it's because you're dying. And your body is saying, unless you drink something, you will die. And that's true of our physical bodies, but it's also true of our souls. When we feel that thirst, we need something or we will die. It's what we were made for. And Jesus says, I can give you water that will satisfy you. That is, I can give you life that will satisfy you. So I wonder tonight, do you know anything of what it's like to run after things that will satisfy you, to chase after your dreams, to go for those things that you think, this will satisfy me. Surely if I could just get this, it will satisfy me. Surely if I could just get this. And time after time, you find you're thirsty again and you need more. And you look at others and they seem to have it all sorted and you're envious of them. And we find ourselves thirsty. And we wonder, is there any end to this? Well, Jesus comes into this world and he says, I can give you living water. And he says that not to the in crowd. He says it not to the impressive. He says it not to the elite and the intelligent and the religious and the ones with a fantastic reputation. He says it to those who are excluded. He says it to those who are doubly excluded. He says it to those who are outside and who deserve nothing. And he says, I'll give it to you. And tonight, if you think, but he would never love me, he would never be interested in me, that's the point. He's not interested in your CV. He's not interested in your performance. He's not interested in your grades or your background. He is interested in whether you want a gift of life. I'll give it to you. If you knew who I was, Jesus says, you would ask me and I would give you living water. I would give you life that would satisfy. And the woman says to him in verse 15, oh, okay, yeah, can I have some of that? And then Jesus says something strange. Go call your husband and come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, you're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you've had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Whoa, it's a bit personal. Why does Jesus suddenly rock into that? I think it's because Jesus is saying to her, I don't think he's being harsh. I think he's saying with deep love, I know how broken you are. I know how you have chased after things that will satisfy you. I know how you have been abused and how you have been rejected and how you have been thrown away. I know how excluded you are. And I really am offering you living water. I know you and I love you. And then in verse 19, it feels like she might change the subject. This is getting a bit personal. So she says in verse 19, Sir, I can see you're a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. She's like suddenly, quick, any subject, anything. What can I talk about? Not the husband thing. Let's talk about worship. Let's talk about worship. Whereas actually, I don't think she is changing the subject. I think she's saying, but I don't know how to worship. In order to be truly satisfied, in order to drink this living water of life, how do I worship? And Jesus says, you don't need to go to a place, you don't need to go to a temple. You just come and you worship. And here's the extraordinary thing. True satisfaction doesn't come when you look within. It doesn't come when you pursue your own ambitions and your own dreams. Instead, true satisfaction comes when you lift your eyes beyond yourself, when you lift your eyes to someone bigger, to someone greater, and you worship. That's what we were made for. Now I need to wrap this all up. Here's a woman who is excluded by walls that have been built. But Jesus offers her a gift of water and says, in order to drink that gift, you learn to worship. To worship the one who made you. And when you discover that secret, that you were made to worship someone bigger than you, it transforms your life. So let's go back to my kids, just in case you think I'm a completely horrendous parent for saying to my children, you should be average. Now, actually, what I want is for my kids, and what I want for you, is that you would be liberated from the need to perform and from the pressure to perform, so that you can chase your dreams and you can chase your ambitions, knowing that you're already loved. It works that way round. You see, if you need to get there in order to be loved, you will spend your life chasing and digging and trying to get water to satisfy you so that you can finally say, yes, I'm lovable, I'm acceptable, I've achieved it, I'm loved. And you'll never make it. But if you start by saying, I'm loved freely. I'm loved not because of anything I've done. I'm loved because God chose to give me a gift. He gave me a gift. It cost him his son. Jesus came and died. We're doing that in 2 nights' time. We're going to see why this living water required Jesus to die. But if you start by saying, I am loved and now I'm free to live my life and to achieve my goals, and it may be that I win a gold medal, or it may be that I'm average and mediocre, or it may be that I'm at the bottom of the heap and none of it matters because I'm loved, I'm loved, I'm loved. That's freedom. And you can get a first, or you can flunk out and fail, and you're still loved by God. That is what it means to be free, to be known, to be loved. So here's a woman who went to get some water from the well and met Jesus, who gave her living water, which satisfied her forever. And that's why we're excited about it. That's why I'm excited about it. That's why what we've heard from Isaac tonight is so helpful. And that's why we'd love you to discover, is this true? Is this man Jesus really all that he said he is? Look, take one of these away with you. Read this. Think about it for yourself. Because if what I'm saying is true, there is no better news in all the world. Guys, thanks so much for listening. I hope you have a great evening. And love to see you again tomorrow night. Either on live stream or here in the room. Come along, keep wrestling with this stuff, keep thinking about this. This is too important to ignore. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Give me a sec.
I'm trying to think of like a time filler, but I can't think of
I'm just gonna
anything.
leave
So,
that one.
I'm just going to have to wait. But thanks so much, Jonathan. That was such a good talk. Really interesting. Just, yeah, really big stuff. So, awesome. You're right, Jonathan? Getting there?
Yeah, I finally decided to show up.
Awesome. Did you enjoy the talk?
I love the talk. John, that was incredible. Really, really helpful. Just thinking about the way that that woman was so excluded and Jesus even came and stopped to talk to her. Something which we don't think about very often. Yeah, really, really nice.
Yeah, I love that. I love the singing as well. That was a great addition.
Yeah, we learned a few things. Jonty can sing.
Yeah.
He can sing.
I like the One Direction as well, a bit of a throwback. So, yeah.
And never go to him with a theme park. If he's going to a theme park, don't go.
No. Or a sea lion show.
Or
Don't do it.
Nothing, don't touch it.
Awesome. So that almost concludes our second day of Known. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know I certainly have. And we've got a few more things. So, Jonathan, let's say there's some people here and they're really struck by something they heard this evening. Maybe they want to find out a little bit more. What would you recommend?
Well, first of all, both Jonty and Isaac have kindly said they'll be staying after. So if you're here and you'd like to talk to them, please do. They'll be near the G&D stand, obviously. So go over there, you can have a chat with them. If you're on a Zoom call and you're online, have a chat with your friends, speak to someone you came with. And thankfully, Knowing continues all this week and beyond, as we're going to watch a video about the search, which is how you can find out more.
The baby pigeon thing gets me every time. I had to Google it when I first saw that video.
Well, in exciting developments, now that the government has announced more on the lockdown easing, the search will be back in person in Costa Coffee on Queen Street. So come along, free tea, free coffee, free cake, and a whole hour to talk about questions. I mean, Why wouldn't you go?
Yeah, and it's super easy to get involved. So if you just text search, I think it should come up on the screen, to 88802, so 88802, you'll get a text update every week telling you like what the talk title is going to be and how to get involved. So if you want to do that now, do pull out your phone and text that. So that'll be cool.
We'll give you 30 seconds to do that. In the meantime, Grace, I'm going to ask you a question.
Oh dear.
The ice creams which are sitting over there,
Yes.
which one are you eyeing up for when this is over?
Ooh, so fun fact, I'm actually dairy intolerant. I know, super cool. So the mango sorbet is definitely my go-to. Yeah.
We're not going to be using that question anymore then. I would recommend the Oreo, just a little inside knowledge. Anyway, hopefully you've texted search to 88802. That concludes Known for tonight. Hopefully we'll see you again tomorrow for the lunchtime talk. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.